A hidden planet orbiting the sun exactly opposite the Earth. A thermonuclear war 1,000 years ago blasts the planet apart into the billions of pieces that form the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Despite massive genetic damage, an elite corps of Quetzals managed to escape in their disc-shaped spacecraft to Earth. South Pole, they take refuge in the hollow interior of our planet. The atomic blasts had so irradiated their bird-like bodies, they cannot even bear the additional radiation of sunlight. The reproductive organs are so mutated, they're forced to mate with snakes in order to perpetuate themselves.
The blaze of noon made him a monster.
The aliens use their high-energy laser beam devices to shatter rocks, or attuned to the right frequency, project thoughts into the brains of humans living on the surface above.
You have come to me. Evil, stupid men, I shall drain your minds and bend your will.
The slimy creatures tunnel between catacombed cavern worlds, constructing huge cities out of their own excrement, practicing their saucer maneuvers in the internal atmosphere of the hollow Earth. Drive huge armies of soldier ants and killer bees past the Rio Grande. Our southern border ditches as permeable as paper towels. Over 10 centuries, the Qs mutate into ever more hideous forms, slithering through vast and twisted systems of subterranean caves, burrowing up through the soil, causing landslides and swallowing whole villages, worming northwards towards the United States' soft underbelly, digging under Fort Knox, SAC headquarters, even backyard bomb shelters, infiltrating our water supply and sewage systems, menacing all the bridges across the Mississippi River.
At its own natural frequency. All bridges are designed to swing a little, but this one got out of hand.
States begins testing nuclear weapons underground. Radioactive surges just over the aliens' heads drive them into such an insanely agitated rage, they vow the total destruction of the U.S. President Truman sets up the Central Intelligence Agency to intercept, decipher, and document Q communications. Secretary of Defense James Forrestal, the first casualty of the counterintelligence campaign, leaps to his death from a window at the Bethesda Naval Hospital. Saucer sightings proliferate. Next, President Dwight Eisenhower dares a final effort for peace while vacationing in Palm Springs. A Kate Sail craft lands at nearby Edwards Air Force Base. Claiming to visit his dentists, Ike instead meets the clique on board their vehicle, takes a test spin, but is prevented from releasing his findings for fear of a national panic. Shocking report suppressed. The mayhem throughout the Americas is instead blamed on the alien's well-placed humanoid double, a certain Jacobo Arbenz, president of the Central American Republic of Guatemala. Outpost of the undergroundlings, the quake-racked hellhole serves as the site of untold thousands of savage human sacrifices atop monumental mummy-harboring pyramids, still beating hearts offered to the so-called sun god, human blood believed to appease its unmerciful rays. Inculcate the veneration of severed body parts, like Mexican General Obregon's left forearm, Santa Anna's right leg, Pancho Villa's floating skull. Grisly cattle mutilations abound, though human dupes claim it's to stop the fast food ranching that daily destroys 50,000 rainforest acres. Enigmatically elected by a 4-to-1 margin, Arbenz nationalizes, for $600,000 compensation, the uncultivated portion of the United Fruit Company's Guatemalan land holdings. He claims the idle land is to be distributed among 100,000 peasant families, but actual plans for more sacrificial pyramids to satisfy the mutants' bloodlust. U.S. Secretary of State John Foster Dulles and his brother Alan Dulles, director of both the Central Intelligence Agency and the United Fruit Company, together swear to stop Arbenz's plot, rallying together a group of gallant men also alarmed by the capitulation of the Guatemalan majority. Headed by exile Colonel Castillo Armas, these troopers are trained by the CIA's E. Howard Hunt on the island of Momotombito in Lake Managua in the Nicaragua of Anastasio Somoza. process, U.S.-donated Thunderbolt fighter bombers crash in a laser beam barrage. The U.S. immediately replaces them in the midst of battle. Armas bombs his own capital, sending our bonds back underground. But his victory over the Mayan alien alliance is all too short-lived. Despite a decades-long succession of strong, defense-conscious military rulers, over 100,000 Guatemalan lives are lost on the scorched earth. An additional 40,000 civilians mysteriously disappear into thin air. The mutilated bodies of the many disappeared are later found in the mouths of the country's numerous volcanoes, dropped there from the air. To the Caribbean Isles via the undersea halls of Montezuma, hostile saucers sneak through the peaks of Cuba's Sierra Maestro mountain range in the vicinity of the Texaco petroleum refinery. Silent metallic cigars rocking from right to left in a falling leaf manner. Cuban patriots Luis Posada, Felix Rodriguez, Orlando Bosch, and Chichi Quintero suspect these less-than-picturesque appearances bode ill for Havana's booming gambling industry. Vigilant men sharing the same fear find themselves together on the mainland as guests of the new Guatemalan ambassador to the U.S. His coffee plantation is coincidentally equipped with 16 U.S. B-26 bombers and pilots. Fortuitously, 2 United Fruit Company freighters also chance upon the throne. Some veteran German military trainers is again on hand to freely dispense his special brand of moral support. The self-described S for Sabotage Force departs for its reckoning with the Qs in Cuba. Their noble flotilla and air force in fact launched from Nicaragua's Puerto Cabezas. Alert! Alert! Look well at the rainbow. Chico is in the house. Visit him. The sky is blue. Place notice in the tree. The tree is green and brown. The letters arrived well. The letters are white. The fish will not take much time to rise. The fish is red. The end time is no time for weak knees, vacillation, or lack of resolve. The intruders spread ruin throughout our world, and we are enjoined by everything we believe in to oppose them with all of our might. President Kennedy holds back American air support when the Cuban Avengers need it most. Though certainly stabbed in the back, the abandoned S-Force can hardly be charged with later retaliation against JFK. His assassination must have been by an android like Oswald, since no lone human being could possibly hit a distant moving target 2 times within 1.8 seconds.
Look at that! What is it?
At least we can glean some satisfaction from this conclusive proof that Kennedy himself was human, all too human, and not another synthetic, as so many claim. On the other hand, the absolutely uncanny immortality of this Fidel Castro. What true human could survive the introduction of botulinum toxin into his air conditioning system? The dosing of his broadcast studio with LSD, the loading of his cigars with a depilatory chemical to make his beard fall out, the placing of black leaf 40 poison on his ballpoint pens, the contamination of his wetsuit with a skin fungus and his snorkel with tuberculosis germs, the installation of a machine gun inside a TV camera,
the firing of a bazooka at Havana Stadium, or the rigging of a large seashell on his private beach with a radio-controlled bomb. The CIA's Miami Station Chief Theodore Shackley, the White Ghost, hires James Bond novelist Ian Fleming to devise a way to neutralize alien automaton.
It means you're licensed to kill.
Failed assassination attempts entailing 2,000 people and $50 million. You're horrified to realize that you can't kill something that isn't alive. And is it really Howard Hughes or another doppelganger who recruits mafia hitman Johnny Rosselli into the anti-Castro cryptogram? Or maybe Rosselli was the double, a player in a game to defame the patriotic ex-pilot. Why would Hughes need Rosselli if he already had super sniper Chichi Quintero for a movie he was shooting on his private island of Cape Sal, just a stone's throw off the Cuban coast? Signs of dark forces at work on the island. What sort of weird weather warfare precipitates freak torrents and flooding? What unholy sorcery conjures up the outbreak of a swine flu that kills 500,000 pigs? The tobacco crop blight, dengue fever epidemic, Legionnaire's disease, the off-center ball bearings, the adulterated lubricants, the counterfeit currency. Could the bearded Antichrist be damned by divinely inspired plagues, just like the evil Pharaoh of old? A civilian airliner carrying 73 passengers, including Cuba's entire Olympic fencing team, explodes in midair en route to Venezuela. Short-sighted investigators scapegoat Louis the Shooter Posada and Orlando Bosch, CIA facilitators, S-Force veterans, and Howard Hughes movie extras. Posada's held in a filthy Caracas jail for years, till his prayers for deliverance are answered by U.S. Marine Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, bearing a generous $50,000 grant for Posada's jailers. June 1972. 120 of Senor Posada's S-Force soulmates are miraculously reconvened in Washington, D.C. through the ministrations of their old skipper, E. Howard Hunt, plumbing a possible alien pipeline in Democratic Party headquarters when tripped up by the trivial technicalities of a local burglary law. The cunning Quetzal cabal seize upon the distraction to maximize their access to inner Earth. The yawning window of vulnerability in the ozone layer above their South Pole opening is wholly the result of their hateful efforts, as it affords decreased atmospheric resistance to their delving disks. The destruction of the Earth's ozone also smacks of a sinister scheme to increase ultraviolet radiation generally, and so induce skin cancer in those most vulnerable, the planet's white people. A global sphincter spewing poisonous gases and perversely twisted flora, this anomalous oasis in the middle of Antarctica is the abysmal embarkation point for the Quetzal conquest of the Americas from the bottom up. Square mile iceberg is launched from Deception Island at the protruding tip of the Antarctic Peninsula, just to the west of the Falklands. A beachhead on the Tierra del Fuego no man's land makes Chile the next domino in their infernal advance.
Then, guided by instinct, the beast would come back.
Specially bred in a super-secret lab on Easter Island, their cybernetic replicants are insinuated into critical positions of power. As President so-called Salvador Allende proceeds to disrupt the economy, foment chaos, and alter the Earth's polar axis. The Earth stops spinning. Its new tilt increases planetary temperatures, with widespread drought during the hottest 6 summers of the century.
They saw the fabulous crown of the Andes, that masterpiece of the goldsmith's art from Colombia, a church relic studded with a priceless collection of giant emeralds. They saw the precious gems of Latin America displayed in settings worthy of their beauty.
These gargantuan geological gambits impact grievously upon the development interests of the U.S.-based Anaconda Company, third largest copper firm in the world. 2/3 of their ore and 3/4 of their profits come from Chile. Certainly this major employer can't let the queues crisscrossing shafts undermine their own tunnel walls and endanger their Indian workers. Of scalar wave earthquake generators are luckily intercepted by another American enterprise, International Telephone and Telegraph, the corporation that controls Chile's communications. IT&T Chief John McCone happens to be a former director of the CIA.
Inner Earth.
Our good white ghost, Theodore Shackley, just in from 3 years at the Saigon CIA station, flies down to Santiago to initiate Operation Track 2 in the summer of '73. CIA and IT&T consolidate their resources in a collaborative effort to keep the hemisphere in its proper alignment and right rotation.
Carl, back!
By happy chance, Howard Hughes' deep-sea research ship, the Glomar Explorer, is conducting experiments in Valparaiso Harbor when Chilean naval officers rise in righteous rebellion against the plan to stand America on its head.
El presidente Bush pide al administrador de la Comisión del Canal de Panamá que actúe como director interino hasta el 1 de enero próximo. Ahora los detalles.
September 11th, 1973, General Augusto Pinochet is forced to dive bomb Allende's presidential residence. Santiago's National Stadium, where deprogramming techniques make use of U.S.-supplied field telephones.
U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger brings down his old German National Socialist friend Walter Rauff to head the new Chilean Internal Security Force, DINA, and convinces another World War II anti-communist, Harry Schandelman, to leave his duties in Guatemala for the more immediately pressing police needs of Chile under Pinochet. Stationed just across the border in Bolivia is their old colleague Klaus Barbie, whose old world ways of consensus building bear fruit in the Garcia Meza cocaine coup. During George Bush's tenure as Director of Central Intelligence, many friendly foreign outfits enjoy the opportunity to operate in Washington with a free hand. On September 21st, 1976, Allende's ex-ambassador to the U.S., Orlando Letelier, inexplicably bursts into flames while driving his car down Embassy Row. Among the groups charged with channeling the awesome force are Chile's new DINA and Alpha 66, a Cuban expatriate fraternity headed by Louis Posada. Newly elected U.S. President Jimmy Carter removes General John Singlaub from his South Korean command after Singlaub vociferously protests the further emasculation of U.S. forces there. Freed from the straitjacket of Army regulations, the retired general moves to constitute the World Anti-Communist League in association with Korean, Filipino, European, and anti-Castro Cuban organizations.
A multitude of missing ships continue to fall prey to the eerie emanations issuing from that Caribbean region, variously referred to as the Bermuda Triangle, the Devil's Triangle, the Hoodoo Sea, the Vile Vortex, the Twilight Zone, the Limbo of the Lost. Discoveries in the area's seabed disclose the fluted columns of huge temples, enormous monoliths, and massive pyramids, the ruins of the lost continent of Atlantis. The cause of its long-ago demise, a super-powerful energy force that ran out of control. Having witnessed the lights of his island's central crucifix turn from white to purple, Prime Minister of Grenada Eric Geary departs immediately for the United Nations to call for a special commission on the saucer problem. He pleads for international aid to solve what he terms the puzzle that is the biggest of our age. UFOs, the Bermuda Triangle, and other strange and seemingly inexplicable psychic phenomena which continue to baffle man. His warnings unheeded, Gary is overthrown by a rampaging gang of psychic vampires. Atlantean plant Maurice Bishop is at the center of this diabolical conspiracy. Gets its name, the New Jewel Movement, from the evil power crystals extracted from the submerged ruins. Amplifying their laser rays through the antediluvian quartz, negatively polarized energy is tuned to travel at the upper vibratory octave of 666 million hertz, the same frequency as human thought.
Thousands of frequencies make up our communications.
The Satanists salvaged the temple walls, constructing the largest saucer port in the Caribbean. Within 5 years, 7 U.S. spacecraft launched from Florida's Cape Canaveral are dealt particle beam death blows from raiders based at Port Salinas. The local Obey sect, all work to render Bishop's so-called Revo into a black magic mojo hex aimed at the big brains of the U.S. medical students in St. George. Shango's shamans order the student doctors to resurrect Jim Jones, brought in from nearby Guyana. U.S. Marines set out to exercise the Grenada Menace on October 19, 1983. The dried corn, the coconuts, the starfish, the peacock feathers, the goat skins, the deer legs, the railroad spikes, miniature coffins. The New Jewel cultists foolishly believe their occult paraphernalia protect them from harm, as well as cure their mentally ill. The center of these sacrilegious practices, of course, has to be destroyed. Overlords from under the earth unleash a volley of high-amplitude, extreme low-frequency electro-gravitational pulses beneath peaceful Nicaragua. The 6.2 seismic convulsions resonate and redouble the Central American rift at precisely its own specific frequency, shattering the continental crust like a pitched shriek does a glass goblet. Millions of international relief dollars cannot go to rebuilding the devastated city. Nicaraguan President Somoza must prioritize the rearming of his National Guard in its holy war against a berserk cadre of Sandinista zealots who worship a martyred member of a shadowy Masonic sect. When he was governor of Georgia, Jimmy Carter had reported a close encounter with a UFO. But as U.S. president in 1978, he suddenly discounts the Central American saucer sightings and instead blames Somoza's guard for the disappearance of thousands of peasants, students, and trade unionists. Theodore Shackley, acting this time as a free and independent agent of peace after leaving the sluggish intelligence bureaucracy, steps into the breach to bring Somoza Israeli arms and search and destroy programs. U.S. Senator Jesse Helms deploys Orlando Bosch and the Alpha 66 Squad to combat the heavy beam machines coming up through gaping mountain fissures to cover the double drive on the Capitol.
fighters' treacherous arms cut off has so compromised the Somocistas that they're forced to move their headquarters across the Honduran border. From amongst the assembly, there arises chosen commander Arturo Cruz, who has gained valuable leadership skills as the head of the Nicaraguan branch of the United Fruit Company.
Governments in Central America with ideological...
U.S. President Ronald Reagan champions a compassionate campaign to resupply the freedom fighters with machine guns, C4 plastic explosives, and other humanitarian weapons that they so desperately need in their struggle against literacy teachers, health clinics, and agricultural cooperatives. On their Achilles heel, their hysterical aversion to nuclear radioactivity. A demonstration explosion of an atomic bomb over Managua is among the measured responses to the crisis considered by Reagan's CIA chief, William Casey. A blast would have the additional beneficial effect of creating a vent in the upper atmosphere through which the Earth's excess carbon dioxide, air pollution, and heat could escape into outer space.
God will fall upon all mortals.
God's cup of wrath runneth over into Nicaragua's Pacific port of Corinto, with lightning strikes against commercial shipping and oil storage tanks. Spies trick the U.S. Congress into strangling the Minutemen's essential supply lines a second time. Colonel Oliver North dispatches founding father Adolfo Calero to Pinochet's Chile to replenish their store of blowpipe missiles. VP George Bush brings baseball star Nolan Ryan to Tegucigalpa to convince Honduran President Suazo Cordova of the crucial continental imperative to provide bases for the forces fighting the baffling beret-shaped craft. Forges a special spiritual union with Panamanian President Manuel Antonio Noriega. Their pact provides that Panama's airfields be used to offload Contra weapons in exchange for $10 million a month and the deregulation of imports into the U.S. North also persuades Noriega's business partners in Medellin, Colombia, to help underwrite the defense of individual liberty in the Americas. Like real-life fairy godfathers, the three Ochoa brothers make a love offering of $10 million, plus 1% of their export revenues. In thanks, they're allowed to use Panamanian, Costa Rican, and Salvadorian landing strips to fly their coffee products into the U.S., sometimes using American C-5 cargo planes. With the easing of import restrictions, the cartel is able to transship so much coffee into the U.S., 80% of the total national consumption, that American coffee lovers actually enjoy a price break, especially on the freeze-dried product.
Coffee tastes so good. Here, rich volcanic soil.
Witness for peace, Eugene Hassenfuss is on a kind and gentle mission to deliver Bibles to our Nicaraguan amigos when a demon-driven disc downs his C-123 fatly. Hassenfuss's superiors at El Salvador's Ilopango Air Base turn out to be none other than Chichi Quintero, Luis Posada,
and Felix Rodriguez, the history-making hero who finally felled the infamous Che Guevara in Bolivia back in 1967. Rodriguez wears Che's wristwatch to this day, a source of power turned to the good. Salvadorans around the Ilopango base are puzzled by the appearance of tortillas emblazoned with the image of late nationalist Fabundo Marti. Even more mystifying are the eerie electrical outages. The Catholic clergymen suddenly switching to witchcraft. The strange train wrecks as far north as Concord, California.
No.
Though the U.S. gives $1.5 million a day to the Arena Party to secure the peace, the Salvadorian death toll somehow still rises to over 75,000. Volcano-ensconced vipers creep beneath San Salvador through a serpentine system of sewers. Targeting the towering Sheraton Hotel VIP Annex and its yield of American Green Beret hearts for use in their ungodly rites. Subterfuge. Our good friend Noriega is suddenly replaced by a grotesque voodoo-spouting freak. The crack 82nd Airborne Division must carry out a protective reaction strike to deter the interterrestrial terrorists who have evil designs on our canal. Particularly damaging to U.S. strategic interests would be the loss of the global command and control complex on Antenna Island. Its unique geomagnetic properties make it the only spot in the world that can broadcast on the ultra-low 300 kilohertz frequency to submarines in both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Mopping up the Dignity Battalions doesn't go so simple.